In a digital world obsessed with clicks, metrics, and automation, what happens when you choose empathy instead? Today's guest, Samantha Kelly, built a thriving brand and loyal community by doing exactly that. She builds trust instead of chasing likes. If you're tired of hollow engagement and ready to create real connections, build a real network, this episode of Strategy Talks is for you. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Here's your host, Morin-van.
Hi, everybody. I am back with another episode of Strategy Talk. Live in the studio with me is my friend Samantha Kelly. We're going to talk about, empathy, right? Empathetic, building a network. How to be a human, especially in this age of AI. But before I bring her on stage with us live, I want to welcome all of you who are watching, who joined us right here on LinkedIn, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook. Welcome. And if you are listening to Strategy Talks as a podcast, I want to welcome you as well. So with all that out of the way, let me welcome onto the stage with me Samantha Kelly. How are you today, Samantha?
I'm good, thank you. This is exciting.
I know. Going live is always fun.
I'm just looking. We got the memo. Look at the plants in the background.
I know. Let me ask you a question. Is yours real?
No.
No.
I can't keep a plant alive. Oh, my God.
That's even better. I love it. And they're like synced. Okay, that's awesome. So we're going to talk about empathy-driven social strategies. But before we do that, Sam, I just want to point something out. And this is like real human stuff. We reconnected on LinkedIn last month because I saw a post that you created that just was so touching to the heart. And I felt compelled to message you and then realized we had been connected on Twitter before, but we never connected on LinkedIn. And it was about, well, actually, let me have you tell. What did you post about? What happened?
Well, summer, like as a business owner, right? Summer can be a strange time because the decision makers, the people who are going to hire you or are going to get in a call with you are usually on holidays. And I know this, and I've known this for years, right? But for some reason this year, I think it started when a certain someone announced tariffs. And as soon as that announcement went out, everything just went quiet. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And I started asking around, and other people were having the same difficulty, the same challenge. And I was like, oh my goodness, nobody was making decisions. Everyone's like, yeah, September. Yeah, we'll chat in September. And I was like, okay, I need something to happen now. So it was just so bizarre. And I really struggled. And then there was other stuff going on. And, with Elon changing Twitter to X, I was the tweeting goddess. So I never really had to go looking for work, to be honest. It was great. Like, I was very lucky. Oh, well, I found out soon enough, though, when tweeting goddess was kind of defunct or whatever, it wasn't really important anymore because X just changed and I wasn't getting as much engagement, and my community had moved to different platforms, but a lot of them had moved to LinkedIn, and I was already on LinkedIn, so it was fine. But I did struggle, whole identity crisis thing, and then the whole cash flow thing. And I was like, well, I need to find a solution here because I was living in the problem and I needed to live in the solution. So I actually got around it. I shared some strategies about how I did it. I created a summer offer, for example. I started doing a rebrand. Doing my pivot, but I also started collaborating like we're doing here collaborating with other creators and other experts to, keep consistent and stay visible, And I was getting headshots done for my new branding, and I mentioned it to John, who I was working with, and he said, you should actually do a video about that. I was like, yeah, I really want to do a video about it. Nobody's talking about it, and yet everyone's saying it to me, like, oh yeah, I'm having that too. I don't know what to do. And I was like, why is nobody talking about this? And so I was always the girl in the class, in school that would go, yeah, let's do that. And then nobody would follow me and I'd do it myself. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I just did the video, and oh my God, the reaction I got, because now I didn't cry or anything on it, but it was maybe the emotion did come out in it of how hard it was, because it was hard. It was tough going. And, it made me question everything. It made me question my business. It made me question, who am I? It made me question everything. And I tell you what, as well, it made me question who my allies were. It made me question lots of other things like that, my strategy, everything. So I did the video anyway, and the reaction has just been unbelievable. The amount of messages I got, like you sent me a message, the amount of messages, and I got 2 new clients from that video.
Wow. And so the video was you being honest about what was going on in your business and the doubts that you had and all those things that you questioned, right? And I think that is just so important. All of us, we've been taught in business to hold up the shield, to project
fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you, that's an American thing. Fake it till you very much so. And I was not born and raised American, yet that is something that, that's I've been taught to do that in business. And yet I don't like that. I don't like fake it till you make it. And so I love that you shared that, because what I shared with you in the message was, hey, come onto my podcast. Let's talk about this, because yes, that happened to me as well, right? And it wasn't just a summer, it was almost a whole year. AI came onto the scene, and while I was cautious about using AI, everybody else around me was using AI, and one by one, clients just kind of dwindled. And no, I didn't stop promoting myself. No, I didn't stop working on my own strategy, but it took 9 months for things to turn back around. And so that's a long time to sit and wait, not just do nothing, but wait for things to pick back up. So I felt connected to your video. And that's what today is all about. We're going to talk about empathy and that connection. So you've built that brand, your business, leading with empathy. And what does that look like in a day-to-day strategy? What does that mean besides creating a video where you pour your heart out? What does it mean when you lead with empathy when, for example, you meet with a client or you're networking with people who don't know you?
It's funny actually that you say, do I lead with empathy? It's funny that you can see that. And I'm like, oh, do I? Like, honestly, like, I think I've always talked about kindness. I've always talked about, so maybe it's coming through in my posts, right? So, but that's good, because I think that's a lovely trait. That and grace. I love grace as well.
Yes.
I'm working on that one, because I was never brought up that way. But, I think they're lovely words, aren't they? Empathy, grace, kindness, all those things. And I just don't see why they can't be brought into business. And they can be, and they are. And I do all the time. And maybe it is showing online, even though I don't realize it. And for me, what it means is thinking of the person with the avatar. I always did this on Twitter. So same kind of thing. That avatar is a human. There's a story there. There's pain there. There's maybe they're grieving someone. Maybe they're, everyone has something. Nobody is perfect. Nobody. I feel that everybody has, and I'm in recovery as well, 17 years. So I hear this stuff all the time. And I think if I use even listening, all those soft skills that you hear being talked about, it's all just kindness. It's all just, if people hadn't given me a chance and sat down with me and for 30 minutes or whatever and had a cup of tea with me and listened to my crazy ideas, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I remember those acts of kindness. And so I was always told to pay it forward, you know, because I was like, oh my God, how can I repay you? You know, blah, blah, blah. And this is the early days, like when I started my business. And they were like, just pay it forward. And I have started doing that, you know, like there was a girl, actually, a young girl that wanted a ticket for something. And I just bought it for her. Like it was 25 euros or something, you know, but for her, it was loads, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, those little things, those little acts of kindness, I remember people did for me. I remember I wanted to go to a business event, and the lady that was having the event, she said, come up, why can't you come up? And I said, well, I actually can't. I don't have the money to come up, you know? And she said, oh, I'll sponsor your ticket. So she got the ticket for me. You know, little things like that can make a difference to a business owner.
Right.
You know?
And then moving it forward. So when we talk about being real, right? Empathy, kindness, that's being real.
Yeah.
How can executives or brands, how can you see, or how would you envision them being real? Because they're, you know, executives are this high level leader, but a brand is like a corporation. How can they show this empathy? How can they show this kindness? What kind of strategy would involve doing that as a brand?
Well, I think listening is a really good one in the first place, you know, and being aware of what's going on, being cognizant of what people are going through. I think leaders in particular they've such a huge responsibility, and we don't see much empathy in our leaders at the moment. So it's very frustrating, and I just feel that the first thing, like awareness, it's all about being aware of the human side to these numbers, for example. Instead of just the numbers, there's a human cost in some way to those numbers, potentially. And it's just, I mean, I'm not a leadership, I'll be honest, I'm not a leadership expert, so I'm not sure. But for me, I would definitely try to see the human behind the business every time. And if I go up my gut a lot, so I will know I'll know by someone's social media, by their LinkedIn, what they're like. I will know straight away. You can see it. It comes out. Like you said, it comes out in mine. It comes out the other way too. So if you're selfish and me, and you don't care, it'll come out in your posts.
Yeah, I agree. So you talked about listening. So what does active listening look like? You were on X, formerly Twitter, as a Twitter goddess. And obviously you did a lot of listening in order to connect with people. How has it, you know, how is that skill now helping you on LinkedIn, in your business? What kind of listening are you talking about? And how can somebody strategically listen in order to show the kindness, the empathy, you know, the human side of them?
Oh, it's really easy. Like all you have to do is, like, even without posting, okay? So even if you find someone that looks interesting, just ring their bell. There's a little bell beside their profile. And if you ring their bell, you will get a notification. You can click which one. You can get a notification every time they post. So it was like having Twitter lists. I always made Twitter lists of people I was interested in having a cup of tea with. Yeah, you know, so the Twitter lists were really powerful. So this is kind of nearly the same. I wish they had LinkedIn lists. Oh, I wish they did. But, you know, it's not the same. But what I do is I keep an eye on them, see what they're about, comment, get involved in the conversations, because actually LinkedIn is really powerful for conversations. But, you know, like actively get involved in the conversations, but then lead the conversations. Like the one I did about my 2 headshots the other day. I just said, you know what? I gave value in 2 ways. First of all, I showed people what ChatGPT had told me about the 2 headshots. So I actually gave them a little tip there for beginners that maybe didn't know you could do that, right? And then I asked people, which photograph do you think I should use? Like there's 30,000 impressions or something on that. Like, and the amount of messages I got from that, and I have 2 calls booked from that post. And because people want to be brought along the journey. So instead of waiting for someone else to lead, you lead the way. So I'm leading without realizing it, because I'm like, do you know what? There's nothing interesting there. I'm going to say something.
I love that. And I just want to point out, you in your own way, without maybe recognizing it, you are a leader, Samantha Kelly. I find you to be a leader. You build communities, you build networks, you host events. Every time I turn around and after X, I started following you on Facebook before I just reconnected with you on LinkedIn. But on Facebook, I constantly see you at events, presenting, creating events, or, like you are active in the community. So that's what I love about you, that you're really connecting with people, not just virtually, but in real life too. So when a brand says to you, we want to be more human, what are some mistakes that they might be making that you could, say to them, hey, this is what you're doing wrong. If you want to be more human, do this or that. What would something like that be?
I love this question. Oh my gosh, it's so easy. The number one thing is engagement, okay? Because I actually remember someone was sick and I was given access to the company page, whatever. And there was loads of comments that hadn't been answered or questions that hadn't been answered. And I was like, hang on, they're just posting here and then leaving it. I was like, nobody is engaging with these people. These are potential clients that are commenting. So engagement is really key. You can humanize a brand, totally humanize a brand. So for example, there was a mobile phone company. I give this example in my talks. Tree Mobile. So now they're still getting me mentioning this brand 10 years later. So Tree Mobile, they had a Twitter account. My sister was trying to get Justin Bieber tickets, and Tree had this special offer. You could get tickets a little bit earlier than everyone else. So my daughter I don't know if you have teenagers, but I mean, she was a teenager and she was on my back, on my shoulder going, come on, get the tickets, very, very stressed. And I was like, oh, trying to get the ticket. And then I tweeted to them and I said, look, I can't seem to get these tickets. And she went, it's actually not till tomorrow. The girl replied, the Twitter account replied. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And she said, is it too late for me to say sorry? Which is Justin Bieber's song. And I said, oh, that's brilliant. So the brand replied in a humorous way, to me. I featured that tweet at Social Media Summit, and the girl who wrote the tweet, Rachel, came to Social Media Summit, and I was able to get her to stand up and everyone clapped, and it made a story out of it. So it was a really good example of humanizing. And I'm still talking about it 10 years later, because you can totally be human as a brand. People, you can see it in some accounts you do see it with some accounts, but it doesn't matter what your brand is. Like, for example, there was a solicitors in Belfast wanted to humanize their brand. And so I said, well, create a hashtag, Belfast Hour, because they were based in Belfast. And Belfast Hour became a community of business owners, and they're all their target audience. They used to have meetups. I think they won an award for it as well. So, I mean, when you build a community around your brand and brand advocates around your brand, the human way what you could do, and what I do with clients, is we create a series of LinkedIn Lives and start interviewing our clients, start giving them the attention. And that humanizes the brand as well, because then you see who the head of marketing is, or you see we had our CFO, actually, we interviewed him and we started talking about how to scale your startup. And, it was like giving value. When you give value, people want value. They want to learn. They want to be educated. They want to feel empowered. They want to be inspired. They want hope. They want hope.
So I'm going to go back to what you said. It's easy, engagement. But let's put that into perspective, right? So you are a big brand. You have all these people. You need to put content out. You need to do X, Y, Z. Who owns that piece of engagement? Who owns that voice of the company? Because this is what I want to drill down to. If you're watching, if you're listening, whether you're a CEO of a founder of a company, or you're a marketer, or you're, a one-person business, somebody has to own the online voice. If your social media manager is hired and you're paying a minimal amount of money and you're just hiring them to post content, you're missing the human connection, right? You need to invest in somebody responding and engaging. That is how you build a brand. And I just wanted to put that out there, because Samantha, you said, well, I was hired to, babysit this account. Somebody was sick, and then I realized nobody was responding. That is probably, 60% of the brands that I see on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're posting, but they're not engaging. So, I've talked to, on strategy talks before, social first, you need to engage, but it's everybody in the company, correct? Samantha, that's not just a job of the social media manager.
I
Somebody
agree.
own it, but everybody has to be in agreement on
Yes.
who the voice is and what the brand sounds like and the values and all of that stuff. So that's a heavy lift. And I think there's huge room for improvement. Would you agree with me on that?
Oh, 100%. And employee advocacy on LinkedIn is something I have been training teams on how to engage with the page and how to actually have their own personal brand on LinkedIn. Because you can look at HubSpot, they totally have their own personal brands. And like, there's one gentleman that, like, I'm really proud of him, actually. He's the sales lead in this company, and he did a post about the journey he took and a little map of where he went today, and the places that had the best coffee along the way. And it was just so good. I thought it was such a good post because he was helping other sales guys, but also he was showing off the company and that they're out there, they're doing stuff, and it was really cool. So, I mean, I feel that there needs to be a proper social media strategy. There needs to be a policy so that people know, a social media policy so that people know. And I don't mean, here, read this social media policy and tick the box. I mean, do a workshop and say, look, this is our social media policy. This is what we'd love to see. This is what's going to help you. The more we get from this is going to help you. Give them an incentive to be commenting and engaging, and maybe ask them for ideas. They're the ones that will have the ideas. Like, I love featuring the team. I love seeing team members being featured, and just to get to know them a little bit more, and it'll actually attract better talent as well, because people want to work in places like that.
Yeah, I want to actually touch on that social media policy you said. So that means putting together and you suggest a workshop on how to respond online. I'm assuming what to say, what not to say, when to engage, and all of that. But I just want to put something out there. If you are the founder of a company, you have to give that person permission to talk, right? So you have to give them permission to respond. If you're micromanaging responses, the responses are not going to be empathy driven. They're not going to be, feeling like human brands. So give the person in charge of the engagement a lot of a lot of breath, I guess, to respond.
Give them a bit of freedom and creativity.
Right.
But once it's within the social media policy and you're not saying anything bad about the brand, you're not saying anything bad about your competitors even, like, we don't need to do that. I mean, there's a funny thing that happens on Twitter. There's a Dublin airport and Heathrow airport, and the two of them have a little banter thing, and then Ryanair and Aer Lingus, and it's a fun thing. So it's not doing either of the brands any harm, because it's actually entertaining us. And, so there's a fine line between, saying, oh, this is why we're the best because they're idiots. You can't say things like that, so it's really just, it takes a really good leader, CEO. I know one that's a great example, Stephen Kelly. You'd actually probably like to interview him. I'll introduce you. But like, he's great. He's like the social CEO. Like, he's using social media so well as the CEO, and it's helping his company along the way. It's so powerful.
So we're almost at time, but I've got another question. You've built a community on X, several communities. You've built communities in your local area where you live. You've helped brands build communities. What's something that this empathy and this kindness that you lead with allows you to see or sense that sometimes, like, a data-driven marketer or a brand might miss? What do you see when you're building these communities? What somebody who is not aware or not engaging might miss out on?
It's knowing your customer, knowing the person in the community. I knew all of the people in my, I knew theirs. I got to know them. And I don't think data driven, like they might say, oh yeah, well, this is the avatar and her name is Mary and she's age 45 and da da da. Da. But like I got to know them because I started giving them opportunities like this, and I'd interview them. And then other people got to know them more. But I actually understood, like, I know several companies that try to build small business communities, but they don't understand small business. Banks don't understand small business owners. They really don't. They're not hitting the reality, which is what I spoke about the other day. The reality is, you know, if you're not exporting or manufacturing, no one's going to give you funding. It's all usually self-funded. You have to do it yourself. There's a lot of stuff that you can get training on, but it might not be the right trainer. You know, there's so many different things going. And then there's this bitchiness thing. I don't know what that's about, but I don't get involved. I stay away from gossip. But this is all stuff you learn along the way. I stay away from gossip. I feel like if I'm not in the right room, I leave. If I'm not in the right network, I don't stay in that network. And it might not be that they were not nice people. It just meant that, look, I wasn't feeling I needed more. I needed to go outside of my comfort zone. I felt too comfortable there, for example. You know, it's like, oh yeah, this is fine. You know, I don't have to do any work here. I'm not like that. I want to keep learning and keep doing good stuff.
Yeah, we actually talked about that briefly because I know you responded to a post that I had made. I was invited to be interviewed to be on a podcast. And when I showed up,
Yes.
there were 9 other people there. And it, you know, I knew it was a group, but I didn't realize it was that many. And it was, I don't know what it was, but I realized about half an hour in that it just wasn't the right fit for me. So when the next day I was invited to fill out the form to get on the podcast, I declined. I don't want to be on the podcast. And I don't think that kind of business model or that kind of community is right for me. And I think that at a certain point in your career, but also in your life, you realize that it's okay to step outside of the room. So if you get anything out of watching this today from Samantha or myself, is that, you know, that empathy driven social strategy means that go with your gut, right? Feel the right feels. And if it doesn't feel right, it's okay for you to say, this is not the room for me to be in. And I think that is super powerful.
It's like real life, okay? It's like, you know, I don't want to go to that because I don't like those people. They're always bitching about it. You know, it's like, but you said something really important there. I know what it was. You didn't feel special. I mean, we need to feel and small business owners, I don't know why we do, but we want to feel special and part of something special. And that's something I've learned. Just from watching, people want to feel seen and special and noticed. And that's probably why I do what I do, because I know how to do that. And I help people get noticed and get their brands noticed. Yeah. But if I don't feel like I'm appreciated, or it's funny, you know, my husband, like when I went to Dublin once and he was like, why everyone was coming over taking selfies and all. And I was like, he'd never seen that because where I live, I'm never treated like that. But when I go up to Dublin or go to the UK, you know, it's strange. So and it makes me feel like, okay, I feel like I'm, you know, I'm something here, maybe. I don't know. And sometimes
what you are is you're important to people in the business world because you are real. And I think that's the difference. When people connect you, your offline personality, so they meet you offline in person, and you're exactly the same person that they've seen online.
Yes.
So you can make that connection.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And I think that that's what a lot of people are missing. They might build an online community, but then when you meet them in real life, they're a dud.
I know. It's so disappointing, isn't it?
It is. It is. So I think that what we can put a bow on this is be real, be you, because that's what this is, right? If you have that empathy, it shows through in no matter what you do. But being who you are offline, online, that's really one of the most powerful things you can be.
Yeah.
Samantha, how can people, you're rebranding, where should people meet you online? Where should they go to meet you? Because you're just a light. You're a light in my LinkedIn feed. I love seeing it, and I want
Thank
people to
you.
connect with you.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you. But just LinkedIn, Samantha Kelly, or tweetinggoddess.com. Can I just add as well, there's a social media fest that I run on the 26th of November in Ireland, but you can join us virtually. We have virtual tickets. So if someone wants to join us virtually, it's socialmediafest.ie. And we'll be talking all about the latest things, the latest trends, but also lovely stories like this.
All right. Wonderful. Yes. You send me the link. I'll put them in the show notes so people can, there's plenty of, about 3 months left so people can sign up. I'd be happy to promote that. And don't forget to connect with Samantha. If you're watching this on the replay and you have questions, connect with her, connect with me, ask us follow-up questions.
Yep.
I love this conversation. I'll be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. Thank you so much for watching. See you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.